Imagine an island that should have been paradise. Blue waters, high cliffs, endless skies. Now strip away the beauty, and picture it as a prison where the laughter of children was silenced, where names were forgotten, and where the sea swallowed every trace of those who vanished. This was Capri under Emperor Tiberius. History remembers his power, but hidden in the shadows are the stories of enslaved youth who never returned. Their fate was not recorded in laws or monuments. It survives only in whispers of cruelty and fear. What happened on that island will leave you speechless. In the year 26 CE, Emperor Tiberius made a decision that shocked Rome. He left behind the capital, its crowded streets, and the watchful eyes of both the Senate and the people, and instead sailed to the rocky island of Capri. Officially, this retreat was presented as a search for rest and seclusion, but it was more than a simple escape. Capri, surrounded by steep cliffs and the deep waters of the Bay of Naples, was nearly impossible to approach without being seen. Its natural isolation gave Tiberius something Rome could not: security and privacy. Far from the endless disputes of senators and the constant noise of the city, the emperor could control access to his presence and shape his world exactly as he wished. Yet this retreat was not an act of retirement. Tiberius continued to rule from Capri, sending orders to Rome and directing the empire from a distance. But Capri was not just a refuge. It became something far darker, where power twisted unchecked. At the heart of Tiberius' retreat stood the Villa Jovis, his main residence on Capri. Built high on the island's eastern cliffs, the villa rose more than 1,200 feet above the sea, giving the emperor a commanding view of the waters below. The location itself was a defense. 3 sides of the villa ended in sheer drops into the sea, making approach or escape nearly impossible. Access to the complex was carefully controlled, with guards and attendants positioned to ensure that no one entered without permission. More than a luxurious palace, Villa Jovis functioned as a fortress, a place where power could be exercised in complete secrecy. Its walls enclosed not only the emperor's private life but also the machinery of imperial rule. From this remote stronghold, Tiberius was able to separate himself from Rome while still holding the empire in his grasp. Behind these fortified walls, he reshaped not just government, but human lives. Even though Tiberius had removed himself from Rome, he did not give up his role as emperor. From Capri he continued to send decrees, respond to petitions, and issue commands that shaped the empire. Letters and messengers carried his words across the sea, reminding the Senate that their ruler remained in control even from afar. Yet reaching the emperor in person was nearly impossible. Lucius Aelius Sejanus, commander of the Praetorian Guard, acted as the gatekeeper. He decided who could approach Tiberius and what information reached him, tightening the circle around the emperor. Senators and officials who once had direct contact now found themselves waiting for Sejanus' approval. This careful control gave Tiberius the privacy he wanted, but it also created distance from the realities of Rome. And that distance opened a vacuum, one that would soon be filled with secrecy, rumors, and a terrible human cost. Ancient writers soon began to whisper about what truly happened inside Tiberius' retreat. The most vivid claims come from Suetonius, who describes how the emperor surrounded himself with young boys and girls, some still in childhood. He says they were called pasiculi, little fish, a mocking term for children trained to entertain Tiberius in ways that blurred the line between service and humiliation. Tacitus, the stern historian of the annals, avoids these lurid details but agrees on one point: Tiberius' withdrawal bred an atmosphere of secrecy, suspicion, and fear. Visitors were carefully screened, and rumors filled the gaps left by silence. Whether exaggerated or not, these stories shaped how posterity remembered Capri, not as a peaceful retreat, but as a hidden court of corruption. If even part of Suetonius' description was true, then the emperor's isolation concealed not only political decisions but human suffering. Who were these children? Where did they come from? And why were they brought to Capri? The children said to have been gathered on Capri likely came from many corners of the empire. Rome's expansion provided a constant stream of captives, and the slave markets of the capital and provincial cities were filled with the young and vulnerable. Conquests in Gaul, Syria, and the Greek East often supplied boys and girls who were described in inventories with unsettling detail. Age, body type, complexion, and even the grace of the body were listed as qualities for sale. Such records reveal how youth could be reduced to a set of traits valued by buyers. Not all may have been legally enslaved. Some could have been the children of freedmen or clients, handed over as tokens of loyalty, or even offered in hopes of imperial favor. In Roman society, where the powerless had few protections, the line between freedom and servitude was thin. However they arrived, once on Capri their lives no longer followed Roman law, but Tiberius will alone. Moving these children to Capri required discretion. The Roman fleet at Misenum, stationed just across the bay, may have been used for quiet transfers between the mainland and the island. Officially, the youths could be presented as attendants, musicians, or household companions, roles that gave the appearance of innocent service while hiding their true purpose. Once they reached the island, their identities were quickly erased. They were no longer sons or daughters, no longer linked to their homelands or families. Instead, they were placed within controlled quarters of the imperial villa and drilled in strict obedience. Silence was demanded, and every movement had to follow rules set by others. Whatever skills they had before were reshaped into tasks that pleased the emperor and his circle. Their new reality was not luxury, it was performance under constant threat. Capri itself became a kind of stage, where every hall and grotto could serve as a backdrop for display. The island's villas were designed with enclosed courtyards and hidden chambers that allowed events to unfold away from outside eyes. At another retreat linked to Tiberius, the villa at Sperlonga, sculptors from Rhodes created massive scenes from Homer's Odyssey. Heroes battling monsters, violence frozen in marble. Such art was not just decoration but a setting for banquets and performances, where myth and reality blurred. On Capri, the same spirit likely applied. The youths kept in the emperor's circle were made to sing, dance, or act out stories, their roles assigned to suit imperial desire rather than personal choice. They became actors in dramas that entertained only one spectator who truly mattered. But if performance pleased, survival followed. If not, the punishment was swift, brutal, and final. Among the most chilling reports preserved by Suetonius is the claim that Capri's cliffs served as an execution ground. He describes how those who angered Tiberius were hurled from the heights of Villa Jovis into the sea below. To ensure no one survived the fall, a party of soldiers waited at the base with oars and hooks, striking the bodies against the rocks. This image of the so-called Tiberian leap became a whispered warning, a reminder that disobedience carried the ultimate cost. Whether every detail is exact or exaggerated, the story reflects the fear that surrounded the emperor's retreat. On an island where escape was impossible, the very landscape could be turned into a weapon. For the enslaved youth who lived under constant scrutiny, the threat was not distant rumor but a daily reality. For them, obedience was not loyalty but survival. Life on Capri was governed by absolute discipline. Enslaved attendants who broke rules or revealed secrets faced whipping, mutilation, or even torture before death. Such punishments were consistent with Roman law for slaves, but on Capri, the emperor's word mattered more than any legal code. Even freeborn visitors were not beyond danger. Under the expanded charge of maestas, an offense against the dignity of the emperor, senators, knights, and commoners alike could be condemned with little evidence. The island became a place where ordinary protections no longer applied, and every individual lived under the shadow of imperial will. No one could claim safety, for the law itself bent entirely around Tiberius. And while fear ruled Capri, in Rome Sejanus was building a nightmare of his own. While Tiberius remained secluded on Capri, the empire's daily politics continued in Rome under the growing influence of Lucius Aelius Sejanus. As commander of the Praetorian Guard, Sejanus used his position to control access to the emperor and to present himself as the ruler's most trusted voice. With Tiberius absent, senators and officials turned to Sejanus for approval, allowing him to shape policy and pursue his own ambitions. Accusations of treason multiplied, rivals were removed, and fear spread through the city. Rome became a place where corruption and suspicion thrived while the true emperor remained distant on his island fortress. Yet Sejanus' rise was not permanent. When his schemes were uncovered, he was swiftly executed. But instead of restoring stability, his downfall only deepened the emperor's distrust. From that moment, Capri grew darker still. Tiberius trusted no one, and secrecy became absolute. Capri remains one of history's most unsettling examples of what happens when absolute power operates without witness. The island's isolation allowed Tiberius to rule free from the oversight of Senate, law, or tradition, creating a world where fear replaced justice. The children brought to Capri left no words of their own. Their voices were silenced, their names erased. What we know comes from writers like Suetonius and Tacitus, men whose accounts are colored by hostility but whose stories nonetheless reflect the deep unease of contemporaries. Whether every rumor is true or not, the picture that survives is of an emperor who used secrecy to shield both his rule and his cruelty. Capri was more than a retreat. It was a warning of how power can warp when hidden from view. The cliffs of Capri remind us, when power hides from scrutiny, the innocent are the first to vanish.